Hello, I'm Hannah Martin. I'm the founder of Talent Ladies Club. And today I want to give you a really quick introduction to the sales funnel, which I have drawn very beautifully here. Now, the sales funnel is basically the journey that your customers make from finding out you exist to buying from you. And there are three key parts of the funnel, which you may have heard people talk about. There's the top of the funnel, the middle of the funnel, and the bottom of the funnel. Now, this journey is also the journey that people will go on with your marketing. And in marketing, we tend to give things different labels. Now, there are lots of ways people break down this journey into sort of more and more stages, but put really simply, the top of the funnel is the awareness stage of marketing. The middle of the funnel is consideration, and the bottom of the funnel is purchase. Now, as I said, it really is very simple, the sales funnel. It's the journey people make from, say, finding out you exist to buying from you and all the information they need in between. So how can you build a funnel? What do you need to think about? So at the top of the funnel, your job is to get noticed by people. But that's not all. There are three key things that you have to do in the top of the funnel to be really successful. The first thing is you need to find out where your ideal customers are. Where are they when they are thinking about what it is you do and trying to gather information? So what websites do they read? What blogs are they on? What newspapers and magazines do they read? What podcasts they listen to? Who do they talk to? So if you could find out wherever possible where these people are. The second part of your job is to get seen in those places. So how can you get on the blogs that they're reading? How can you be on the podcasts they're listening to? How can you be in the newspapers and magazines that they're buying? So your second job then is to get seen by them. But your third job, because you can't just leave it there, is to ideally get those people onto your mailing list somehow. Because just simply being seen by someone is great, but unless they come and seek you out and actively choose to follow you on social media or join your mailing list, your relationship with them ends there. You've got no opportunity to continue talking to them. So the best case scenario is the top of the funnel is to get them on your mailing list, because then you can grow your relationship with them. You can email them, as a chance they'll see those emails. Even if you get them onto your social media platforms, which is the second best, and they're following you, there is a chance they might not see your posts, or there's a chance that the social media sites will change their algorithms and then your posts aren't seen by people. You're not really in control. I mean, all social media platforms could close down tomorrow. If Facebook suddenly shut down or suddenly started charging for groups, building up a community there, it is not going to remain. So your ideal thing on the top of the funnel is to get people on your mailing list. Now that's when you can bring them into this middle of the funnel. And this is where they're going to spend the most time. It's when they're going to make a decision whether or not to buy from you. And sometimes that could be quite a quick decision, but sometimes it can be years. I mean, there are people who buy from me who've been on my mailing list for a number of years before the time is right for them to buy. So you really need to make sure that you have a lot of content here and you're really nurturing people. Don't assume that someone's going to go from the top of the funnel straight to the bottom, and that if they don't do that, then it's a failure. They're not a customer. They might just need time. Now, there are three things that are going to influence how long it's going to take them to decide. Now, it's quite a complex subject, but it's kind of three core things that I think generally. The first one is the cost, how much. Obviously, if you are selling something really cheap, if it's like 10p or a pound, then it's not really much of a decision to weigh up, because if they've lost 10p or a pound, like that's okay. But if it's 10 million pounds or £1,000, people are going to think a lot more carefully about that decision. So the cost is a deciding factor in how long they take and how much information they need to decide to buy from you. The second thing is how much time they're going to spend with it. Again, if they're going to consume it quite quickly and they're going to move on, then they haven't really lost that much. So it doesn't take that much. But if like they're going to have something for a long time, like if it's a home you're going to live in, then you're going to think really carefully about that decision, because if you make that wrong decision, you've got a long time to regret that wrong decision. And the third thing is hope. How much emotion are they investing in this? If it's something that doesn't really matter to them, then they won't need that much convincing. But if it's something really important to them, then it will take quite a lot of information for them to decide. Now, to kind of put this together and give you an example of how this works, I'm going to use a food analogy because I love food. So let's say you are at a festival and you're hungry and it's lunchtime, and you decide to eat, and there's 3 or 4 food trucks there, and it's about £5 or £10 to buy a meal from them. You're really not going to think that hard about it. You're going to make a fairly quick decision based on, I like Mexican food, there's a burrito truck. I like burgers, there's a burger truck. Now, this is a low consideration decision because you're not going to spend much money. You're not going to spend a lot of time. You're going to eat the food and then it's done. If it's a bad meal, you had a bad meal, but you've got another meal later on that evening and you can have a nicer meal. And also hope, you're not kind of investing a lot of hope in this. It's not like this is going to be my food truck forevermore. It's one meal and you're going to move on. So there's not a lot of thought process there. Now, compare that to maybe deciding where you're going to have your wedding reception and your wedding meal. Now, that's a really considered decision because you're going to spend a lot of money on it. You're going to spend a lot of time enjoying that. You spend several hours sitting there and sharing toasts and sitting with the food and having loads of courses. And there's a lot of hope and expectation. This is hopefully your one wedding meal, and you want that to be really special. You'll remember it for years to come. So there's a lot of hope invested in that. So it's a very considered decision. So I hope you can see there the difference between a quick decision, which is where am I going to eat, which food truck I'm going to eat from, to where am I going to have my wedding dinner. They are either ends of the spectrum. So one thing you've got to think about in this section of your sales funnel is exactly that. How considered a purchase is what you do, because you will need to give them enough information here so they've got time to think about it and they've got enough information to think about it. That's when we come to the bottom. So when they are ready to purchase, you've got your bottom of the funnel. Now, you need to have, just as you need information here for people to make a decision, you need to have information to help someone to buy, to let them know they can buy and how to buy and when to buy and where to buy, and then it's okay to buy. So all the information they're going to need to make a purchase, you need to have here. Now, there are two things that influence the bottom of the funnel, okay? Now, these are what I call external triggers and internal triggers. Now, external triggers are things that happen kind of to all of us that you can predict. So, for example, an external trigger might be a time of the year like Christmas or Valentine's Day. So, if you've got a flower shop, an external trigger is Valentine's Day or Mother's Day, because people kind of come and buy, loads of people buy flowers then. So you can put your marketing around this external trigger. Now, an internal trigger is something that's influenced from that person and it's not predictable from the outside. So an internal trigger might be, someone's partner leaving them, or then deciding to quit work, or something that's happening that is just solely happening to them. Now, just as your job on the external trigger is to know when those external triggers are and to have marketing and sales around that, with the internal trigger, what your job is to do is to help have the right information for that internal trigger, but also sometimes to trigger that internal trigger. So what I mean by that is all businesses solve problems. That's what we all do. And people, what they can do is they can sit on a problem for a long time. We all do this as human beings. We have to get to a point of extreme discomfort sometimes before we make a decision and change our life. Sometimes it's easier to sit in discomfort than it is to take the effort to solve that. So we can sit with problems for a while. Now, with your internal trigger, sometimes your job is to help someone realize that this problem exists, that they are having this problem, and realize that how it's affecting their life. Because all the time we sit with these problems, we're losing things. We are having discomfort, or we may be losing opportunities, or we're not gaining opportunities that we could have if we solved it. So sometimes at the bottom of the funnel, your job is to identify people's internal triggers and to show them their internal triggers, to show them how it's affecting their lives, and then to invite them to purchase from you. And if you've got all this right, so if you've found the right people, you've brought them onto your list, you've built that know, like, trust factor in this consideration period, you've given them all the information they need to learn about your product. When you get to the external and internal triggers, then they're ready to make a purchase. So I hope that's helpful. That's a really quick overview of the sales funnel and how it works and the journey people are going to make from finding out about you to buying from you.